Welcome to Hockey Nights in Vegas, episode 65, the Eddie's on a Road Trip episode. Brought to you, as always, by the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com. Your home for everything in Las Vegas. Gambling tips, drinking tips, Chris Chapman's favorite, strip club tips. Anything you need in Vegas, go to www.lasvegasadvisor.com for the inside scoop. And by Dr. John Pierce at Ageless Forever, www.agelessforever.net. That's my doc, dude. That's all I can tell you. He's the best doc there is when it comes to taking care of men's health and women's health. It's not your regular doctor's office. It's not any of that. You don't know who you're going to see. It's none of that bullshit. You go in, you see the doc, you get as good as you can get. So with the plugs out of the way, I'm joined this week by Chris Chapman of Fox Sports Las Vegas. Lindsay is off doing family things, and she'll be back with us in a couple of weeks, we think. And it's time to get down to the episode. I am in beautiful, sunny Seattle, said no one ever. I'm looking out my window on the 43rd floor of the Hyatt Regency, and you're not going to believe this, folks. It's overcast, gray, and raining in Seattle. But before we get to why I'm in Seattle, which you all know is the Winter Classic, we have to go back a little bit, and we have to talk about what we thought was sort of the end of the four-game skid that the Golden Knights went through with a pretty, I don't want to say dominating, but a pretty important win against the LA Kings. It didn't seem like the Kings were ever really a threat to win. It was the Golden Knights that we have sort of been expecting to see for at least a couple weeks prior to that game. Didn't give up a lot of high danger shots, and it was a pretty satisfying 3-2 win. And we're like, okay, 82 games, we go through these things. The next game is the Winter Classic. Everything will be right in the world. But before we get to the Winter Classic, what will you remember? What are your recollections? Tell me about the Kings game.
Well, I thought that they were really good in that game. I mean, like you said, I don't feel like the Kings ever really threatened to win that game. I mean, I thought Vegas was definitely the better team from start to finish. They got an early goal from Jack Eichel. And look, they played with the lead the entire evening. And when you don't allow the Kings to take the lead against you, it becomes a lot easier to play against them because things open up a little bit. When you force them to chase you, they become a very, I would say, a very average team.
Vulnerable.
The problem with the Kings is they are so good on the road, and they are so good when they play with the lead that they're almost unbeatable when they score first. So for Jack Eichel to get that early goal, Bruce Cassidy talked about it in the presser, when he talked about how different they are when they do play from behind. And it was a game where the Golden Knights were, look, we thought that they turned the page, right? Like you come home, you have that little Christmas break after a really, I would say, really disappointing road trip. Well, obviously you go 0 for 3 and you don't get any points. There's no, I would say it is a disappointing road trip from every perspective. And you come home, you play a team that is chasing you in the standings, a team that if the playoffs started today, you would be playing in the first round of the playoffs, believe it or not, because the Golden Knights do not sit in first place. The Vancouver Canucks actually lead the Pacific Division at this point. But I thought it was a statement game. Like, okay, shit went bad in Carolina and Florida, but we turned the page and we're back to being ourselves. This is who we are. Good goaltending. We're going to play really solid defensive hockey. We're going to forecheck really well, and we're going to beat you. And then that's exactly what they did. We thought, as you mentioned, that the page had been turned and things were right in the world, and the Golden Knights were going to go up to Seattle and do what they have done in their history, in the history of these two teams existing, and that's basically let the Kraken know that they're still little brother. Didn't happen that way.
It was, I mean, they seemed really, in the post game, in the locker room, they seemed like the monkey was off their back. They were clearly stressed out about 4 really shitty games in a row where they gave up
Yeah.
a boatload of power play goals. They were some not as good as others. There was some pointed criticisms that were being levied that you absolutely knew who they were about. But they manned up, right? They realized that things had to change. And for that 60 minutes, it was sort of like all the other Golden Knights games when they're on form. They just went out and it was a very workmanlike win. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't, they didn't outshoot them 50-15 or anything like that. But like you said, as soon as LA falls behind, they have to completely change to a character that they're not very good at, right?
Yeah.
Pressing, right? When they take a lead, they lay back in that 1-3-1. They clog up the neutral zone. It makes the game kind of boring to watch, truth be told, right?
Yeah. It's not flashy. It's not interesting. It's kind of dull.
Yeah. I mean,
but it works.
You know exactly what you're going to get. They're a very well-coached team. And I was just saying to myself, okay, you know what? 4 games. We talked about it on the last episode. Onward we go. Well, onward we went. But before I have the absolute interview scoop of the year, courtesy of the men's bathroom on the press level at T-Mobile Arena. Ladies and gentlemen, my tiny bladder needed relief. And on a TV timeout, I decided it was time to head to the little boys' room. And who did I run into and get a chance to talk to in the men's room? The EBUG. Now, that probably is going to need a little bit of an explanation for you folks. EBUG, emergency backup goalie. If you go back a couple of games, Adin Hill got injured about 7 minutes into the game. And the process is when that happens and a team is down to one goalie, every arena has an EBUG standing by. He doesn't belong to the Golden Knights. He belongs to the NHL. He could play theoretically for either team, even though he's a local. So we're sitting in the press box. Adin Hill gives up a goal, shakes his head no, skates off the ice. In comes LT. And you and I and everybody in the press were like, uh-oh, this is an EBUG game, right? Now, we see the EBUG every night, right? We see him leaving the room and stuff like that. Hasn't even been close to a game where he's going to go in. But the call went out. He said to me, as soon as Adin Hill came off the ice, they came and got me and said, go get dressed. So our guy, and I'll tell you why I don't know his name later. It's a ridiculously dumb story. But anyway, I continue. He goes down and he gets dressed. And you think that he would be sitting in the locker room watching the game on TV, right? Get a feel for the flow and everything like that. No, sir. The EBUG said to me that he sat in the equipment room with his phone, dressed in a Golden Knight sweater, and had no idea really what was going on in the game. And I politely asked if I could ask him a few questions, and he said, sure. And I said, tell me what you're feeling at this exact moment. He's like, dude, I was so excited. I thought maybe I was going to get in and I was going to get a chance to play. I said, were you nervous at all? He goes, no, it was all excitement. It was all anticipation. And I was just fucking stoked. He didn't say fucking stoked. I added that for
a little
sauce and flavor. Yeah. So we go through the game and we're wandering our way through the game and it's blah, 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 blah. And Logan Thompson comes up lame with about 7 or 8 minutes to go in the third period, definitely holding a groin or a hip or some sort of a lower. He couldn't put any weight on his right leg. And we're like, holy sweet mother of Jesus, we're going to get the EBUG game. Now, if you're not a hockey fan, this story might sound incredibly stupid. But if you are a hockey fan, you know that this might be the only time in your life where you get to see one, not only in person, but on TV. It happened in Chicago a couple of years ago. It happened in Toronto a couple of years before that. But it is like the rarest occurrence in an NHL game. So LT looks like he's in big trouble. And I said to him, what happened when you found out that LT came up really kind of lame? He goes, they came back and they said, you're going in. And I'm like, how'd you feel? He said, I was really excited, but it finally set in that, this is an NHL game. And he's all gloved up. He's got his uniform on. I forgot to ask him what jersey number he was wearing, but so he's all ready to go. And then LT stayed in the game. And LT was laboring through the game.
Yeah. We didn't think he was
noticeably laboring through the game. And our EBUG dude ended up not getting in. But what makes the story fascinating is we asked everybody on the Golden Knights communications team, we asked the kid interns and everything, can you get us the EBUG's name? We want to talk to him. And we got smashed in the face with a stone wall.
Yeah.
No, we can't tell you. I'm like, but we see the guy every game after every game in the hallway waiting to go in the line. We can't. And I'm thinking, this is like a top secret mystery. Is this like the NHL's policy, or as our friend Ken at Sinbin said, no, this is just the Golden Knights not wanting to give us any more information. But what a fascinating story. You're a college goalie. What do you say? He's probably 30.
Yeah, he's probably about 30 years old.
Right.
Yeah, he's a young guy.
And he's a fellow of shorter stature, you would say.
Yeah.
Right?
He's about
5'9".
Yeah.
Right? He's a pretty thick 5'9", 5'9", 210.
He's definitely not 6 feet tall.
Yeah. And he's definitely not Marc-Andre Fleury, skinny, lithe, whatever that word, right? Yeah. He's a guy with a little bit of padding on him, right? Mm-hmm. Very friendly, always says hello to us. But that guy almost got into an NHL game that meant something certainly meant something in the statistics, the way the Golden Knights have been playing, through that run of things. And it was just fantastic to hockey nerd out and talk to the guy about what he might be. I mean, didn't play college hockey, didn't play in the AHL, didn't do anything like that, but was about to get called on to play in front of 18,000 people in arguably the most raucous arena in the NHL. And
it's fucking cool.
Right? And I listen, I'm sorry, I wasted 4 minutes of your time nerding out about a really cool
sport. I think it's great.
And now we're like buddies. Now I can say hi to him and maybe I'll ask him his name, but I don't want to violate any, international peace treaty about potentially divulging the name of the EBUG so that the whole world can Google him and say, hey, that's the guy. So that's the end of the EBUG story. We never hoped for injuries, but when LT got hurt, I think we were really excited, not about his injury. Let me make that perfectly clear. We're not excited about LT getting hurt. Do I need to say that one more time just for clarity on the broadcast? We were not fucking excited about LT getting hurt. We were excited about the potentially having the opportunity to see something that is literally, for a hockey fan, a once in a lifetime, even less occurrence. And that's the appearance of a completely amateur goalie trying to win or save a game for an NHL team. End of story. So I'm in Seattle. I thought it would be a wonderful experience to come up to this lovely, sunny, beautiful city and watch the Golden Knights play the Winter Classic in front of 47,000 people at the AT&T ballpark, home of the Seattle Mariners.
T-Mobile Park.
What is it?
T-Mobile Park.
Did I not say that?
Yeah, you said AT&T.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I used to be with AT&T, but now I'm Magenta and with T-Mobile. And
Verizon guy.
Yeah. So the NHL, they do these big things right. And the ballpark was incredible. It was really an event. It was really something to see. We got a chance to to go and watch practice. Some of the journalists got a chance to skate on the ice, right? The NHL really knows how to do these big events really well. There were events all over the city. There was Fan Fest and all of those other things. The highlight, unfortunately, was on New Year's Eve, we got to watch the Golden Knights practice in uniform, and then there was a family skate immediately after. And Butch talked about how you bring your family and you merge them with your hockey family. And seeing Mark Stone skate around with his little daughter Scarlett in his arms, and watching Jonathan Marchessault's kids just ripping it all over the ice, sort of playing tag, and watching the girlfriends and wives who weren't really skaters holding on to the players for dear life, just to sort of take in the experience. And the field was across the top of the infield into the lower part of the outfield. So we were quite a ways away, further than we normally are. But you could just see the joy and the delight and the happiness of all of the players getting to skate around with their kids and their wives and their girlfriends, and taking, Bruce taking pictures of players with their kids and players taking pictures of Bruce with his kids. And it really was a fantastic experience and a fantastic event put on by the NHL. And knock on wood, or whatever this desk is made out of, I fooled the NHL again, and I got credentials, and I got to stay in a fancy Hyatt Regency and take shuttle buses and really sort of live the experience of the Winter Classic. And then there was the game. Holy sweet mother of Jesus. How did the Golden Knights go out and just take a dump, Chris?
Yeah, I think, well, we can start with the pregame entrance where they came in the fucking Elvis jumpsuits, which was, well, I thought it was just, I don't know. It was unoriginal, I thought. Like, come on, guys. There's a little more to Vegas than Elvis. Embrace something different. But nonetheless, it was similar in some ways to the Anaheim game, in which they came out with no energy. They were flat. They fell behind early. Now, they didn't give up 4 goals in the first period, but they couldn't establish the forecheck. Seattle had more oomph. They had more juice. Felt like they came out and they played with a little more motivation than the Golden Knights. I mean, the Golden Knights, for whatever reason, came out flat and they started slow, and they never really were able to get anything generated offensively. Look, the first goal, give up, a couple deflections, I think. Nothing Logan Thompson could do about that. You chalk that one up and said, all right, well, there were some things that maybe we thought guys were going to be in different places. Maybe we thought that someone was going to make a different read on it. Nonetheless, you fall behind 1-0 really early in that game, and you never really were able to recover from that. I mean, it's not like they played a terrible game. You lose 3-0, and you would have liked to have seen them score. But like we talked about the Kings game, where we never really felt like LA was a threat. I don't know about you, but I never really felt like once Vegas went down 1-0, they were really much of a threat to win that game.
It was very weird because the ballpark is so expansive. It was sort of hard to track the game the way, like when we're T-Mobile, we sit in the same exact spot.
Yeah.
We have a better sort of perception of what's going on the ice. This game was really hard to watch because there were just literally distractions everywhere. But they gave up a goal 4.5 minutes into the first, 2 some minutes into the second, and then 2 or 3 minutes into the third. And Jack Eichel had some legit grade A chances throughout the game.
Yeah, the third period he did. Yeah.
Yeah. But like you said, they didn't seem like they were engaged to me. And we were much farther away, and the press box was literally a mile away, and Jesse Granger of The Athletic and I didn't sit in the press box. We went down to the top row with a lower bowl sort of in the corner just to try to get a sights and sound kind of feel of the game.
Yeah.
But they just never mounted a real serious threat. Their chances seemed like they were one-off. They hit a couple of posts, the outside of the net a couple of times, but this was a frustrating lack of effort by the Golden Knights. And it's reflected in the fact that Butch in his postgame said he expected a lot more out of his team.
Yeah.
And
I think we all did. I think we all expected more.
And some of our colleagues went over to the Seattle dressing room after the game and said that they were celebrating like they had won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, well, it's a big deal. I think not just to beat the defending Stanley Cup champs, but I think in that setting, in your home city, against a team that, let's be honest, you're going to be compared to years down the road.
Yeah.
So I think for those guys, look, I would too. I mean, it's a big deal. I mean, outside of I think the Stanley Cup final, this is the marquee event on the NHL calendar. Like, I think this, and look, I didn't go to Seattle. I haven't been to a Winter Classic, but I've been to an All-Star game. This is a bigger deal than the All-Star game when it comes to when an NHL event. Players, some of them don't even want to play in the All-Star game because they'd rather have the time off. There's not one player in the league who, if you go to and say, hey, you want to play in a Winter Classic? They're going to be like, nah, I'd rather have the day off. No, of course not. So it's a big deal for the Kraken. I think it's a big deal for their fans, to be able to have that game only 3 years. Look, there's teams around the league that have been around a lot longer than the Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken that have not played in a Winter Classic. So, for these guys, it's a big fucking deal. And, they should celebrate. And look, let's not miss the poo or what punt on the pooch or whatever the fucking statement is. The Kraken have kind of turned the page a little bit. They're playing really good hockey. There's a couple teams in the Pacific Division right now that are playing really good hockey. And I'm not saying that the Kraken are a threat to catch the Golden Knights or the Oilers are going to catch Golden Knights, but all of a sudden some teams have turned it up a little bit in the Pacific Division, and it's coincided with a bit of a slump for the Golden Knights. And things are certainly going to get more interesting if the paths continue on the way they're going. Look, I don't know what the disconnect is. Alec Martinez last week in Anaheim mentioned a little bit of a disconnect. He kind of mentions a few things, not connecting on passes and such, and, just little shit like that. But there's definitely a disconnect. And I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if it's just maybe the stress of having to defend this cup after the hot, look, mid-November, we were like, hey, this team's going to win the fucking President's Trophy. Now, they may not even win the Pacific Division the way Vancouver's playing. I mean, I'm not saying hit the panic button. There's still, 40-something more games to go in the season. This team is too well coached. They have too much leadership in that locker room. There's too many guys who are too good for this team to continue to play this way. Look, maybe they'll kind of limp into the bye week in 3 weeks, after that New York road trip. They play.
God, I hope they don't limp that fucking trip again. I didn't like watching them go 0-3 last year. I need a W on that. We need a W on that trip.
They did get a point, right? They did get they lost to the Devils. Was it in overtime?
Yeah, Doogie Hamilton, OT.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Oh, that was a goal. Yeah, I remember that one. I think
they call that a piss missile. In case you were for you hockey fans, that's called a piss missile. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, was just thinking about how.
But look, come February, this team will turn it up. They will figure it out. I think they're going to figure it out before then, because I don't think Bruce is happy. Like, I think maybe there was the excuse of, all right, we're getting ready, we're heading into Christmas, and we've got guys preparing maybe their first Christmases with their children or whatever. There's some distractions heading into Christmas. You come out of that first game after Christmas and you play like absolute shit against the Anaheim Ducks, and you get embarrassed by that team. Then you play a great game against the Kings. But to follow the Kings game up with what we saw yesterday, it tells me that there is some disconnect. There is something not working right. But I trust that you have guys like Mark Stone and Alex Pietrangelo and Alec Martinez. They will get this shit righted. Like, I don't have any idea in my mind that this team is going to continue to play like this the rest of the season. Things will turn around, and I think it's going to start Thursday, when the Florida Panthers come into town. You just saw them 2 weeks ago. There's no excuse to come out and lay an egg in that game, especially after you laid an egg in the Winter Classic. The entire hockey world was focused on the Golden Knights and the Kraken yesterday, and you came out and you laid an egg. I think there's guys in that locker room who are going to take that personally. I think Bruce takes that personally, and I think he's going to be on their asses. And I think we're going to see a really good Golden Knights game on Thursday when the Panthers come into town. Well, I think that's where it begins.
They have always said that they don't make excuses, but they've also said things like, we've played a lot of hockey, which is true. For a long time, they were leading the league in games played, and they haven't had a lot of time to practice. Also true, but it felt a little bit excusing. I mean, they had a couple days off to get ready for the Kraken, right?
Yeah.
Bruce said, listen, I encouraged everybody to take it in, and they took it in, and they lived it, and they went to Pike's Place, whatever it's called, and the first Starbucks and all the other stuff you do in Seattle with fish and things like that. But he said, I expect come game day that the competitive nature of this team is going to come out because they want to win. And everything about that statement is true, except for the part where the competitive nature came out and they seemed like they didn't give a shit if they won or not.
Yeah. Now they're now 0-2 in outdoor games. I mean, not that there's a whole lot that you go back to that Lake Tahoe game, but I mean, just for conversation's sake, they are now 0-2 in outdoor games. And Bruce Cassidy was attempting, I think, to become the third coach to win second coach to win 3 Winter Classics. Look, I think there's something to that, but look, they practiced on Saturday before they left. I think they were off on Friday, right? They didn't skate on Friday after the Kings game. And I don't think there was really too much. Well, you did. There was a practice on Sunday, but
that practice is an outlier. Bruce said he didn't expect it to be real crisp.
Yeah, guys aren't focused on, they're taking in the moment.
Yes.
But I think, we have to look at what is this team missing? And look, every team has injuries, but the consistency is yes. And we've seen it in the past. So I think it'll show back up. I think, I tend to be a pessimist a lot of times, but when it comes to this team, I guess maybe I just have too much faith in the players in that room and the coaching staff. And, you may call it optimism or blind loyalty or whatever, but I do believe that they'll get it turned around. I think this is just one of those stretches where shit's not going right, and it kind of fucking snowballs. Now, if you want to look for a positive yesterday, they didn't give up a goal on the kill. So there is that. I mean, I don't really think that's going to satisfy Bruce, like, oh, well, we didn't give up a fucking goal on the penalty kill. Yeah, but you have to try to find a positive out of yesterday, and I think that's one, that they didn't give up a goal on the kill. But like I said, I think we're going to learn a lot about this team the next 2 nights, because you've got the Florida Panthers coming into town who kicked your ass. There's no other way to put it. They kicked your ass
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. they're going to come in wanting to kick your ass again. They're going to punch you in the mouth. Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Bennett and all those other guys that they have on that team, they're going to punch you right in the mouth. So you better be fucking ready for it. And if they come out and they get their ass kicked again, I think we really have to maybe take a step back and say, what's going on? But I think we're going to learn a lot about this team on Thursday. I think we're going to learn a lot about them on Saturday. I think it's the Islanders who come in, and that's a team that plays really ugly hockey. The Golden Knights are better than the Islanders. They should beat the Islanders. Florida's a little bit different, right? Like there's a little bit, even though it was 6-7 months ago, there's still
Juice.
going to be, yeah, exactly. So, but I'm not ready to push the panic button. Even if they lose to Florida, I'm not ready to push the panic button. You just got to see how things continue. And it may take a few more games for them to get things fixed and the ship righted. But it's going to happen. They're going to get this turned around. They're just too good not to.
Before we get on to the last topic of the day, I have a surprise for you, Chris Chapman.
Oh,
I got invited to dinner at the high table last night. That's a John Wick sort of reference, but so last night after the game, I had dim sum.
Oh,
in Seattle.
Oh,
and it was fucking delicious. I'm still paying for it a little bit right now, but that's okay. I got a flight full of people I'm going to share it with here in a few hours. But let me tell you about this Murderers Row dinner that I was invited to. Your colleague Ryan,
okay.
Jesse Granger of The Athletic, Danny Webster of the Las Vegas Sun, Ben Goetz of the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and then Steve Marsh.
Oh, I don't know who Steven works for, but he's a
I don't
nice
know.
kid.
He might be getting over better than I'm getting over it, stuff like that. But
I don't know who he works for, but
I mean, I got the invite, and I felt like that scene in The Sopranos when Paulie Walnuts picks up Chrissy and puts him in the front seat of the Cadillac, and they take him down in the basement, and he gets made. That's an incredibly obscure reference to a show that most of you probably don't even remember seeing.
Greatest show ever.
But my, oh my, those, and they're professionals. And I've said this multiple times, right? I'm fooling the world. I get to do this podcast with you. I get to go to the Golden Knights games. I go to the cool things like the Winter Classic and the Stanley Cup Final. That's their life. This is my professional hobby, which I absolutely love because I've been a hockey guy my whole life. But when they're not on the mic and they're not on camera, boy, oh boy, I'm not spilling the tea on anything that was said about anybody. I'm sorry, I can't do that because it was my first invite to the high table. But man, oh man, there was some shit talking going on last night, and there was some truth being told about some things that were going on with the Golden Knights that I wish I could share with you, but I can't. But I will share with you that our good friend, our dear friend, that chatty fellow Steve Marsh, did try to surgically open up a dim sum bun and extract the contents of it, maybe with a fork or maybe with a straw. And he's a young fella, and to be honest, he's a little chatty for my liking, and I know you like him, you think he's a good kid. But watching him surgically open up a dim sum bun to try to extract the spicy beef or whatever it was, I should have tried to film it. It was that fucking priceless.
That's great.
It was. I was honored, right? I got to hang out with the guys who really do this for a living.
Mm.
I have my own opinions about them. That's not really relevant, but getting the invite after being around them for 3 years, it was really kind of special to me. And the only person that was missing was Chris Chapman. So,
I am going to New York in a few weeks. So
yeah, but it's only going to be us. which is fine
That's
because
that's
we're going to
true.
have a fucking blast.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I know, and I guess we're going to see Joe's brother while we're there.
We will see Joe Payne's brother, Ralph. Yes.
So for me, it'll be like a good experience to meet Ralph, who I've never met, but certainly will make me think of our friend Joe. And I know you've got some really good memories with Joe, and for me, all my memories are in the press box. But man, I hope Ralph has stories like Joe does, or like
Oh,
Joe did,
times 10.
because I'm sure they're, as a guy who lives in New York, I'm sure they're fucking incredible. But I'm looking forward to that. I mean, that trip is. I've waited 7 years to take that road trip. I'll say 6 because I'll throw the COVID year out, because obviously they didn't make that road trip in the COVID year. But for me, it's an opportunity to. I grew up going to games in Madison Square Garden with my uncle. He was a big New York Rangers fan. I was a big Devils fan growing up, and nobody really gave two shits about the Islanders. But to have the opportunity to go and, I think, cover a game in Madison Square Garden. Look, as much as I love the Devils growing up, and as much as it's a big part of why I became a hockey fan, the Prudential Center doesn't quite have the same allure and the same magic that MSG has. And I know they've renovated it a couple times, but man, for me, that will be maybe a full circle moment walking into MSG as a member of the media and sitting in that press box and watching the Rangers and the Golden Knights, because, for me, it's like my childhood will all collide right then and there. And going to Nick games and going to wrestling and whatever other stuff my parents and my uncle would take me to when I was growing up. Like, it's going to be a really fun moment. And the best part is, I'm going to be able to eat some good fucking pizza while I'm there too. I've already got my place. I'm getting in Sunday, and I'm hopefully going to see my some family. But when I get there, I'm going to go get some pizza down in Little Italy. I know a place on Prince Street that I'm going to go grab something, and that's going to be my first stop, and maybe getting a fucking potato knish and some matzo ball soup at a good Jewish deli.
Sargent's,
I'm
that's
looking
where we're going. Sargent's, I think it's on East 33rd. Give them a
sweet,
free
really
plug.
close to where we're staying then.
Yep. So we have one more topic to cover, and it's going to be a little uncomfortable, but it is the 500-pound gorilla in the room. The fan groups are losing their fucking minds over LT. And LT has said a couple of things recently, and they shine a light on some pretty concerning, I don't want to say behaviors, but I mean, he was quoted as saying that this was the worst month of his life. And you think, this is the guy who said he wants to be in the net every game. And he has struggled. They've struggled a little bit in front of him, but
Yeah,
he has struggled. I mean, Paul Cotter got his pocket picked yesterday in the third period by Yanni Gord, but that's a goal that he has to stop. It wasn't a blistering shot. It wasn't anything else. He didn't skate in from the blue line. It was a close-in thing, and he didn't cover the rebound. And Logan Thompson is struggling on the ice, and God, I wish Lindsay was here to talk about this, to talk about the mentality of goaltenders. But he's clearly struggling between his ears, and he's fighting it. And I don't know if he's fighting it because last year he was an all-star, even though he kind of got that by default. That's just being sort of honest about stuff.
him and Stuart Skinner. You had two rookies in net for the Pacific Division.
Yeah. But
That kind of shines a light on how the goaltending was in the Pacific
so
last year.
in my experience, there's sort of three kinds of goalies. There's the super laid back but hyper competitive guys like Marc-Andre Fleury, who are really chatty and but we'll give you the quotes and we'll talk to you when you're off the ice, when they're off the ice and things like that. But when it gets to the game time, hyper competitive. And then you have the other end, which are the goalies that are, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but head cases, right? A lot of the times they make their own difficulties, and they can't, not only are they having trouble stopping the puck, but they can't get out of their own heads to get out of the funk that they're in. And this is not a commercial to bring Marc-Andre Fleury back. Stop that. Just, you guys stop it. He's not coming back.
Yeah.
But we talked about in the last episode, how concerned are you about LT? And do you think that Kelly McCrimmon is going to make a move in goal?
Well, I'll start by saying the quote concerned me, when I heard him talk about it being the most difficult month of his life, and, how career-wise, it was really tough. Look, and the guy's dealt with some shit, It sucks. It sucks being injured, and it sucks maybe having that in your mind as you're playing. Let's rewind. Logan Thompson was the man last year. He was the number one goalie. And then he suffered that injury post All-Star break. Was it Minnesota? He got injured. I think he was on the road in Minnesota. May have been on the dad's trip, actually. I'm trying to go back in the time capsule there. But then he comes back and he gets hurt again. It has to be in your head that at any moment your body could do something you don't want it to do. And I don't know the position well enough. I don't understand the mentality. Look, I do know that it's a really fucking hard position to play, because it's not like being a kicker in the NFL where you're kind of like a different part of the team. I mean, I'm not saying that, but what I do know is it's a very different and unique position on the ice. And there's a lot of things you do away from your teammates when you're practicing and when you're getting ready in your prep and when you're getting ready to play. I hope, for the sake of Logan Thompson, that he's able to get it figured out. The other aspect is we don't know how long Adin Hill's going to be out. We haven't received any timetable on this. And, I don't want to say injury plague, because I think that's a disservice, but he's dealt with some injuries, as has Logan Thompson. So I don't think the organization has a ton of confidence in Jiri Patera right now, just yet. And I think Isaiah Seville is still, he's not going to walk in tomorrow and be the starting goalie. So I think what you have to do is you have to look and see. And look, I'm sure Bruce and Kelly know. I'm sure George McPhee knows. They know the status of Adin Hill. They're not going to tell us the status of Adin Hill and how long he's going to be out. But I'm sure that they've had conversations with the medical staff, and I'm sure they are well aware of what the timetable is on his return. And I think we went through a period where there's no activity in the NHL because it's the Christmas holiday. And then the Golden Knights had this little quirk in the schedule where they go up to Seattle and play the Winter Classic. I think I keep saying we're going to learn a lot in these next couple nights. I think we're going to learn a lot about Logan Thompson in these next couple of nights too. How does he bounce back? Jiri Patera is not playing. He's not playing against Florida.
Does he bounce back?
Well, that's the key. I think that's a question we probably can't answer right now, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out really soon whether Logan Thompson is going to be able to return to the guy he was previous to that All-Star game last year.
Okay, so let me pose this hypothetical to you again, because we have no information whatsoever.
Right.
Adin Hill is out till after the All-Star break. I'll ask you the same question I asked you in episode 64. Okay. How confident are you in Logan Thompson? And what do you think the likelihood is that the Golden Knights make a move for a netminder.
Well, if he is, well, I'll answer the Logan Thompson question first. I'm about a 5 out of 10 in my confidence in Logan Thompson. I don't know what I'm going to get night in or night out from him. And I think it goes back to that consistency thing that we talked about 40 minutes ago. Golden Knights need to be able to find some consistency. Well, Logan Thompson also needs to be able to find some consistency. If he does not get back and Aiden Hill is only out until after the All-Star break, like if he's coming back in February, I'm not making a move. I'm not making a move because I'm confident that Aiden Hill is good enough to get me through. And he's proven that he's good enough to win a Stanley Cup within net. Now, if we get to a point where Aiden Hill is going to be out for 3-4 months, like he's not coming back till March or April, like late March, early April, I'm probably making a move at that point. Because I feel like you need to secure up that position. And by that point, you're going to know what you have in Logan Thompson. You're going to know whether he's an NHL goalie or not. There was a lot of chatter in the offseason. I don't really know the source of it, but there was some chatter that Logan Thompson was maybe looking for a new home. I never heard Logan Thompson say that, so I'm going to just chalk that up as chatter. But I think he's got to find that consistency. And if he's unable to do it in the next 3-4 weeks, you may have to start looking. You may have to start looking elsewhere because this is a franchise that doesn't deal with sentimental bullshit.
No.
They don't care. You could be, and I mean, we'll get to here. We'll get to this point in a few months when Jonathan Marchessault's contract is up.
Yep.
Conn Smythe winner, original Golden Knight, maybe the face of the organization for many years.
Here's your offer, take it or leave it.
Yeah. Like, I don't think they play, they're not bringing him into a room to play Parcheesi. They're going to bring him in the room and they're going to tell, well, I mean, obviously it doesn't work like this where they go in a dark room and there's the little light bulb and, you know, like the fucking cop TV shows. I mean, there's going to be some negotiation going on, but the Golden Knights are going to get to a point where they're going to say, look, this is our offer. You either take it or leave it. And I think that's how they operate. And that's why they've been successful, because there's too many teams that give out contracts to guys based on, and I do think they've learned from Marc-Andre Fleury. I really do. And that's the sign of a good organization. It may hurt the fans. It may hurt the ego of certain players. But you know what, Eddie? At the end of the day, all that really fucking matters is winning.
That banner.
That banner, exactly. The
that
cup
banner.
over your head, drinking out of it, the parade. That's all that fucking matters. Not, hey, this guy scored 30 goals for us one year. Or, hey, this guy won a Vezina trophy. What matters is, can you help us win under the constraints of the salary cap going forward? And that's all that matters. And, you know, it sucks for Logan Thompson that he's going to be in this position of sink or swim. But he sunk against the Anaheim Ducks. He was I thought he was good against the Kings.
Good enough. Yeah.
I don't think he was particularly bad yesterday. I think it was just an embodiment of the team not being good. But at some point, you need Logan Thompson, and I'll throw Yuri Patera in there as well because he may get another opportunity to play soon. But you've got to go out there and you've got to put on a performance like the kid in Washington did, like the kid in Philadelphia did against you.
The kid yesterday in Seattle.
Joey Decourt yesterday, where you fucking win that game on your own. Maybe the team in front of you doesn't play their best game, but you need to be the guy who wins that game for the team. And I don't think they've gotten that performance from anyone this year.
No.
Where you're like, man.
No, the goalie said
that game. He stood on his head.
Nope.
And
not once.
I think if you're Logan Thompson, that has to start tomorrow. Or I keep saying tomorrow. that has to start Thursday against the Panthers, because you know that team's going to be fucking salty coming into this building, knowing what transpired the last time they were here. You need to steal that game. You need to be the best player on the ice.
I think my concern is a little bit higher. I think I am more in the 6.5 range. I think that he's in a very difficult position. And I think that our friend who talks to us every single game, Sean Burke, this will be a majestic redemption process if he's able to get Logan Thompson out of his own way and not to think and just to go out and play, because that's what they want goalies to do. They want them to go out there and feel the game and play the game. And clearly, Logan Thompson, there's clouds, there's things going on up there in his head. And, Bruce has said multiple times, I don't talk to the goalies much. I talk to Sean Burke. And, Sean Burke was a very, very good NHL goalie as well. So he is as well equipped and has as many bullets in the gun as he needs to try to rehabilitate Logan Thompson's mental game. The physical game, it's going to be what it's going to be. If he gets hurt, he's going to get hurt. He's not going to stop being an active goalie. He's going to continue to be what Logan Thompson was that got him from Canadian college hockey to the NHL. However, if he doesn't unclog the brain and just start being a player again, he is in serious danger. And he's on a spectacular contract, $875,000, something like that. But $875,000 is, as an ineffective goalie, and with the Golden Knights track record of not standing pat and not taking anything less than excellence as the standard, I think that I agree with you. He really needs to get on a redemption tour, and it needs to start Thursday night. And, he doesn't have Aiden Hill breathing down his neck that we're aware of.
It's his net. His net.
He needs to go sit on the toilet and take a dump for an hour. He needs to, I wouldn't say go smoke a bowl, because that's not a nice thing to say about professional athletes, but he needs to do whatever he needs to do to get out of his own head, to worry about what's in front of him, not what happened in the couple of weeks behind him or the month behind him, where he said it was, again, the worst month of his life. And he needs to really just go out and be the guy that was the guy until he got hurt last year. Because if he doesn't start his redemption tour pretty soon, he's going to force Kelly McCrimmon's hand, because Kelly McCrimmon's not going to take his foot off the gas. We know that under any circumstances.
They want to win.
Right. And
they don't care about your feelings. They want to win.
No. So I hope the young man gets it together. I am sure that our guy, Sean Burke, is spending a lot of time with him, talking to him about goaltending, but probably talking to him as a human being as well, to try to get him uncluttered.
Now, we should clarify something, because we do talk to Sean Burke, but we don't talk to him about hockey. Logan Thompson or goalies, hockey. We talk to him about popcorn in the press box.
Yes.
And, steaks and stuff.
We get a good feel of how he is as a human being.
Yes. Yeah.
And when you take that with his track record as a goalie and what he did with Team Canada and all those other things, he's optimally suited. So he's unique. He's completely aware of what's going on.
He's a good goalie coach. I mean, I don't think there's any debate about that he's a good goalie coach. But I think, we're going to learn a lot. And the one advantage that the Golden Knights do have, and I don't even know if this is something that would even be considered, but Logan Thompson can be sent to the AHL without having to clear waivers. Whether
Oh,
or
boy.
not, whether
Oh,
or
I
not
think
that's
that
an
would I think
option,
that would crush his soul.
but if Aiden Hill comes back and he needs to get his confidence back, I don't think it's off the table. You
Wow.
know, can you win with Aiden Hill and Yuri Patera or Aiden Hill and Isaiah Seville? Probably. But I think you have a whole lot better chance of repeating as Stanley Cup champion if it's Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill in net for you.
I,
And at the end of the day, you need Logan Thompson playing well.
yes, I understand what you're saying, and the realm of possibility is in play, I would say.
I
But
mean, look,
I
that
think
Cantor sent to the AHL. Granted, he was put on waivers and no one claimed him, so that's probably got to be even more soul crushing. But
I
the
think
option
that would
is there.
destroy him.
Look, I have no idea if they would do it or not, but I think the option is on the table.
And with that blockbuster, we're going to wrap up episode 65 of Hockey
I don't
Nights in
call it
Vegas.
very often, but
Wow, that was a bomb that we ended up in minute 55. The episode, as always, is brought to you by the Las Vegas Advisor, www.lasvegasadvisor.com, your home for everything in Las Vegas. Smoking tips, drinking tips, entertainment tips, strip club tips, ladies and gentlemen. Anything you need to know about Vegas, go to the lasvegasadvisor.com and by my good friend, Dr. John Pierce at www.agelessforever.net. Personalized, concierge, caring medical care for you, your wife, your kids. This is the guy. He's my guy. And on the next episode, lucky number 66, I might give you the revelation of exactly how much healthier I am now than when I started with Dr. Pierce just a short year and a half ago. So thanks all for watching. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Feel free to comment. We're going to bring out a special surprise for the second half of the season. We're going to give you recaps of every single game in addition to the weekly content. And it's going to be called the Nightly Report. Chris or Lindsay or I are going to cover each and every game for you and then get back together every week like we have been and share our thoughts in the roundtable forum. So that's it. Episode 65 is in the books. I need to pack up and get on an airplane because I just can't take any more of this incredible sunshine and brightness here in Seattle. So that's it. We are out. See ya.